All right, so here we are. It's been a little while since I've checked in. You can see the seats located in the chassis. That way we can work on the roll cage, build cage bars and things like that around the seat placement. Working on the door intrusion bars right now. A couple other things going on there. So the cage is still under progress. In the meantime, decided to go ahead and start having a crack at the front suspension and just finished pulling the stock strut, lower control arm, and all that out of this thing. Now, I've got these going back in, and this right here is the strut and brake setup that came out of the other race car. If you're going to go racing, you're probably going to want some kind of a coilover just because it's going to give you a lot better choices in spring rate and things like that. So you can dial in the spring rates to the vehicle more closely. Also, you've got better height adjustment with the coilover, so you can raise and lower the car as necessary, keeping in mind that if you go too low on the vehicle, you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to have the potential for bump steer, and so you need to consider that. You may need to make some adjustments there. So this brake system right here, this is not a big brake system. This is actually the largest stock brake that came on these Focuses. This is a what's known as an SVT Focus brake setup. And the reason I didn't go with the big brake system is because when it comes to that horsepower to weight thing, anytime we make changes that are outside of the allowable, then there's what's known as a modification factor that's assessed to the vehicle, and that means that you either have to weigh more for some modifications or have less power. This vehicle stops pretty well with these brakes, so we're just going to backdate these brakes onto this vehicle, and it's well within the National Autosport Association rules. The other thing you notice there is the wheel studs. Those wheel studs are hardened studs. They're manufactured by ARP and they're long. For a lot of forms of motorsport, drag racing, things like that, you really want to consider a hardened wheel stud. You're going to be putting a lot of loads on your tires and wheels. The wheels are going to be taking a lot of shock, and frankly, a stock stud could fail. These can fail, but it's going to be a lot less likely that they will. I've got a longer stud there so that if I need to put wheel spacers on the vehicle to move the wheel outboard slightly, I can. That's usually not the case, but with some wheel combinations, I do need to do that to clear the brakes. So this right here is how I removed that assembly, and it's simply I left everything attached to the steering knuckle, the control arm, brakes, everything is attached to that, and then I just pulled out that entire assembly. That makes it fast, and it makes it easy, and it also gives me a reference in case I end up missing something. I can go back to that. I can find it pretty easily. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is right here. These are the tools that were required to get that control arm and strut and everything else out of this vehicle. I definitely want to make certain that exactly these tools are in my racetrack toolbox, because if you're out there at the racetrack and you go off track hard and you bend up a control arm, you can probably fix it at the racetrack unless you don't have the tools. If you've got the right tools, you're in business, you can put it back together, maybe continue to race for the weekend. But if you don't have the right tools, then you're kind of screwed. So as you're taking things apart, note which tools you're going to need in that toolbox and consider putting them in there. So I guess that's really all I've got for you tonight. We're going to finish up with the suspension swap. I'm going to finish that up tonight and get the front end done. Tomorrow night I'll get the rear end done. And I think the next step is going to be converting from the automatic transmission that's in it to a manual transmission. So again, all I got, and we'll catch up with you later.